Welcome to the Athlete Insights Podcast, hosted by Yash Padday, a podcast focused on letting athletes tell their journeys in their sport. This podcast is presented by Boxed Water. Boxed Water is better.
Welcome into another episode of the Athlete Insights Podcast. Today I've got my guest. He's a former wide receiver at Washington State, the University of Northern Colorado, and Auburn, Mr. Kassidy Woods, good friend of mine. Cass, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's right after work for you. It's a little later night here, so appreciate you coming on and chatting up with me and talking about your journey.
No problem, Yash, man. Thank you so much, brother, for having me. It's been long, but I'm glad in the start of 2025 we were able to kick this thing off because I know you've been wanting a podcast for a while, bro. But...
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know, you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge and a lot of insight for viewers and for listeners. So it's great to have you on that caliber. And Kassidy also works with the College Football Players Association as well as an advocate. So Kassidy, as I do with all my other guests, I want to kind of start with your journey, with your story at the very beginning. What was kind of the first time you really connected with sport, fell in love with sport? At what age would you really started to fall in love with sport?
Ironically, I connected with sport watching my two older brothers play.
Gotcha.
It was just a fascination of watching, like I said, my two older brothers. My oldest brother played linebacker. And then my second oldest brother, he played quarterback. And what's cool about those positions, linebacker is basically the quarterback of the defense. Some change now, but back then you had Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher and all those hard-nosed, very high IQ line, and Junior Seau. Hopefully I pronounce his last name right. Rest in peace to him. But, man, those was dudes that my brother looked up to. And Luke Kuechly. Sorry. Luke Kuechly was another one.
Yeah.
Bro, all greats that my brother watched, and he would tell me just how to read defenses and just how he studied the game.
Yeah.
And then my oldest brother, him playing quarterback, knowing the offensive side of things, just how his work ethic was crazy, man. His skill level, how he juked, how he moved, how he ran. It was cool watching my two older brothers play, and so I wanted to have that same impact that they had, not only on the field but just off the field, how they studied, and then the impact that they had in the community was great, growing up. So they were everything that I wanted to be. I still look up to them, ask them for wisdom throughout my whole journey because they graced my eyes, and all their peers that I watched, had the pleasure of watching them growing up, man, they were my Hall of Fame players. So
Gotcha.
that's how I love with the game, and No, you go.
Oh, sorry. Did you end up playing the defensive side of the ball? I know in college you played receiver, but in high school early on in youth ball, did you end up playing the defensive side too?
Yeah, so I didn't start playing youth ball. I didn't start playing football until middle school.
Gotcha.
My parents were just like, it's a very collision sport. We don't want you injuring your head too early, so we're going to let you play in middle school. So played in middle school, played both sides of the ball. Up until high school, and then once I got to college, that's when I focused on just receiver.
Gotcha. And I know you said you started playing ball in middle school, but is there a memory in youth football, your middle school year that really stands out for you?
Yeah, I would just say definitely 7th and 8th grade, man. We had a great group of guys that I played with, and just the bond that we had and the talent that we had. We couldn't quite beat Holland Park, which was a really good school growing up with some great athletes. But I just remember the camaraderie, man, the locker room talks in middle school, and not that you're talking about much, but
yeah.
Little talks, this is the first time you're able to do extracurricular activities at home. Outside of being home and stuff. So spending that time outside of the home was great, man, with brothers that you could laugh with, play with, get angry at, and still be good and go back to practice the next day like nothing happened, and go to school the next day like nothing happened. So that's what I remember most. And then football, it was just cool, just hidden, because you had to that was my first time playing, and those dudes who played tackle football when they was younger, they they was used to getting hit. It was my first time, so you kind of got to get your body and mind adjusting to taking a hit
Yeah.
and get. So I just remember those days, those butterflies before practice,
Yeah.
having to use the restroom. before,
Oh, those are fun times. I played in third grade, doing up until third grade, and
yeah,
that was yeah, that was definitely like the restroom thing I really connect
yeah,
with,
man.
having to go to the bathroom before practice and stuff like that. And that was a thing. So want to kind of transition into your high school career. Can you talk about your high school experience playing football? What that was like? What's a lesson that you kind of took away from your high school experience?
Yeah, my high school experience was eye-opening for me because up until then, my sophomore year, I was in public school, and then I had to reclassify. Me and
Hmm.
my brother did to go to private school.
Yeah.
Um, just the education difference and just who I was around was very much different from what I was around in public school. So
Yeah.
people and being able to see myself with people that I never saw myself being around was just amazing because it exposed me to a lot more how to communicate, how to
Mhm.
on different behaviors,
Yeah.
and just expanded my level of the game too. So it was great, man. I really found um, my style of play, if you will,
Yeah.
and I was able to get coached by some of the best coaches as well too. So even though private school is not as big as public school in Texas, I feel like that I had the right resources around me. I had the pleasure of playing with my second oldest brother for my first 2 years in high
Mhm.
school. So that brother connection was very, very real. Anytime he was down bad or needed a play,
Wow.
throw it to me. And I'm glad we had that trust and just that bond, that connection, man. It was great. And then senior year, I remember writing my goals my sophomore year and wrote make it to the private school championship. And I look back on, I'm like, man, I should have wrote win the private school championship because we made it my senior year, but we didn't win it. So I'm just like, man, right are important, bro, but you definitely want to aim for the highest for sure.
Yeah, writing things down and manifesting it right there.
Yeah,
That's the power of it, and you just described it there, and it's great to kind of see that connection that you built throughout your high school career, and and always like to talk to my athletes about their recruiting process,
yeah,
and kind of what was your recruiting journey like? Briefly, just discuss kind of what what you learned from your recruiting journey, kind of what was your recruiting journey like, and then kind of what to high school athletes now that are starting that process, what's something like you said that you learned from it that you would advise high school athletes now as they go through the recruiting process?
yeah. So my offers out of high school, my sophomore year, I ended up getting offered by Washington State, Iowa State, SMU, North Texas. Who else was it? Stephen F. Austin University. I think I said North Texas already, and it was a I can't think of the name. The Road Runners.
Oh, UTSA.
Yes, yeah, I got offered by them.
Yeah.
But I narrowed down my top three to Washington State, Iowa State, and Nebraska, and then ended up going to, as you know, Washington State. But NIL wasn't thought of then, and so I just got a scholarship, a full scholarship at all of those schools. But I did experience the business side of it early,
Yeah.
which kind of take into consideration the impact of it was, but I understood the very small minuscule of how business is. So when I had my visit at Washington State, I was supposed to take another one to Nebraska, but the head coach got fired, Mike Riley, and so I couldn't take a visit to Nebraska.
Yeah.
Um, that whole coaching staff got fired, so my scholarship went away as well. But they really exposed me to the business side of it because obviously, if coaches don't win, they
They
get fired. But it made me realize that, man, what about those players at the
Mhm.
university? How were they going to transfer?
Yeah.
What about those high school recruits that got offered?
Yeah.
Don't know what's going to happen to their scholarship if they did commit. So a lot of questions that it made me ask later on. It made me think and reflect on my journey. Like, man, like
Yeah.
it could be a lot different if my coach had got fired. If Mike Leach would have got fired by the time I was a senior. So I'm definitely
Great coach, by the way. I've read his book, Coach Leach's book. So,
rest in peace to him. It
yeah,
was a
I,
blessing to be coach.
yeah. And what's I mean, when you got to Washington State? I might already know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. What's the biggest difference that you've noticed, or that you noticed, from the high school game, or from when you were in high school to when you got to Washington State and played in a game out there?
One was definitely the speed.
Mhm.
I mean, we had great intensity at high school, but
Yeah.
Mike Leach was just on a whole nother level in terms of just the demand,
Uh-huh.
the intensity, the testing mentally.
Yeah.
Everything was a challenge. Everything was a competition.
Yeah.
Um, that's just how he approached it. He worked for everything that he got, so his philosophy was the same way within football. And then with me being a receiver, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
to get the ball, I mean, he passed the ball every play, so he was that much harder on us,
Yeah.
the receivers, than any other position.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the ball, you know what I'm saying? So
He was the creator of that air raid. Well, not the creator, but the adopter of the air raid offense out there. So
yeah,
it makes sense in that regard. And speaking of Coach Leach, you know, we're on the topic, and obviously it was a huge piece in college football. Can you talk about? And I've heard a lot of stories on the outside of him not just having knowledge about football, but when you talk to the guy, he has like an encyclopedia of knowledge of everything. What was your interaction, or what were your interactions with Coach Leach like, and what kind of impact did he leave on you as you move through your college career and at where you are now?
I mean, he was somebody that all of us have different stories, and I respect those ones that didn't have the best experience with Coach Leach.
Yeah.
Um, Also, people that had the best experience. I'm thankful that just with my understanding now of not everybody's going to like you, not everybody's going to like what you do, but what I can say, when you did walk in the room, you respected them. You know, that's what I appreciate more now that I'm a father and a husband, man. I would value respect more than being liked. And for him, and what I learned from him, just to be somebody that could be respected, be
Mhm.
honest, be transparent, be authentically yourself. That's what I learned.
Gotcha.
That he did always preach was swing your sword.
Mm.
Um, and that just means being being a man about your business.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely saying it in a filtered way compared to,
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
but just being a man about your business and leaving no doubt about how you want to live life, how you want to approach the game, how you want to approach everyday decisions in life. Man, swing your sword, go full throttle, make the best decision. But I mean, obviously, we're swinging a sword. You obviously want to make sure that it's sharp and
Yeah.
that you're doing diligence to take care of your tool, your weapon that you're using in life,
Yeah.
because very much destroy or lengthen the process of you dominating in
Yeah.
this life.
That's I mean, that's a great message
Yeah,
to portray and to share with young people, and you know, whatever you're doing in your life, making sure that you're sharp at it, you're
yeah,
continuously working at it. And you know, we talk about adapting, and in his book he talks about adapting to things and adapting to circumstances. When, like you mentioned, when you were getting recruited, it kind of brings me to kind of the main entree of what I want to talk about here. Is when you were being recruited, you talked about NIL not being a thing. But by the time when you transferred from Washington State to where we met up at Northern Colorado, and you were with Northern Colorado and Coach Ed McCaffrey, NIL had passed through, and going through that. Can you talk about how you adapted through that, and kind of what your process when it came to NIL with
yeah. I think
technology?
my story that I didn't base my decisions solely on monetary value.
Yeah.
Like Coach Ed McCaffrey, I mean, his decision to come to Northern Colorado wasn't based off money. The man didn't need to. He didn't have to coach,
Yeah.
but he did. And so when you kind of meet somebody that's aligned with the same vision and goals,
Mhm.
and what drives you, and it's not so much per se money. Not saying the NIL is all about money, but
Yeah.
obviously, it's about names and likeness and being compensated as such. But it's cool that when you get a coach that wants you for sells you by what they see you doing compared to talking to you about what money we can give you. You know what I'm saying? And so that aligned with everything that I wanted. I just wanted the chance to compete, and I felt like I couldn't do that to the full capacity being at Washington State. So um, hopefully that answers your question. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't
Well,
NIL.
and it's great you bring that point up because NIL it's compensatory, but it's not always money related. Because I saw this yesterday when I was watching the national title game with Notre Dame and Ohio State. Ohio State's running back Quinshon Judkins, he has an NIL deal that doesn't directly compensate him, but it donates money towards, I think, like Alabama's Heart Association or whatever it may be for every touchdown that he scores, right? So you can utilize, that's a great point that you bring up. You can utilize your NIL to do good in society and not just have it all compensatory.
Most
Uh,
definitely.
yeah.
And it's crazy you said that because not to the same extent that Quinshon Judkins did, but when I was at Northern Colorado and I did have the NIL opportunity, I partnered with Amway, which is a nutrition,
Mhm.
vitamin supplement company, and buying protein shakes and being able to share with my football team, giving them protein shakes because, in Northern Colorado, we didn't have all the same
Yeah, yeah,
resources as, Washington State and other Power Five programs. So
yeah,
me knowing what that looked like, being on the outside of having the pleasure of being outside of the Big Sky,
yeah.
knowing athletes' need for their bodies to be able to play at a high level that we were,
Mhm.
I feel like it was my duty to do that and bring vitamins, bring
Yeah,
protein, add more. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Um, not trying to toot my horn, but I'm just giving you this landscape of a lot of athletes do pour back into their community, pour back into their team.
yeah.
That when they do get those NIL opportunities and things like that. So I'm not the only one. That just goes to show a lot more athletes do.
For sure, for sure. And like I said, I like how you said it's not just always compensatory for the athlete. It can also be used to compensate and help those around the athlete and
Definitely.
those in the community as well. And so, no, it's been great to kind of see. And then now you're working with you end up you finished your career at Auburn University, and can you talk about your experience with Coach Freeze and kind of what you learned from Coach Freeze and your experience at Auburn?
Man, I learned a lot from Coach Freeze, but I feel like where I was in life played a big part into my perspective on how I saw things.
Yeah,
Me being a father going into Auburn and having my fiance to that experience to share it with. Um, my mind wasn't on the same things that it was when I first got into college. Man, I wanted to be at a place that one could take care of my family, but also um, really value character, really
yeah,
value not just what I could do on the field, but off the field as well. And
yeah,
Coach Leach was somebody that not only cared for you as a player, but as a person as well, man. And just how he approached business was great. And just the environment
yeah,
that he created that was conducive for athletes to be able to thrive, not only physically and athletically, but also spiritually,
yeah,
mentally, man. So it was a cool experience. And even though he's not getting the wins and being at a place like Auburn, he's not getting the wins that he um, is kind of projected to
yeah,
people's eyes, man. He's making an impact in guys' lives and changing the way they view the world, changing the way they live, changing their whole paradigm on how they approach life and how they treat people. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
no, and I mean that's really, and it sucks to me when I see a lot of these Power Five coaches get fired within a year, within 2 years, because I see been around not the player side of football, but being around football, coaching video, now coaching high school ball, all that stuff. You see it like the way the wins obviously matter, but I feel like the way you build your culture and the way your culture sets in, that's really the most important piece. I mean, you look at just example Notre Dame just now, right? Those guys would run through a brick wall for Marcus Freeman, and Notre Dame, right? The culture that he's built, the respect that he's brought back to Notre Dame. It's been great to kind of see that, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's about, like I said, it's about building that culture is what I really, when I see a football program, and if I now on the coaching side of things, I'm like the culture and helping those guys succeed in the next level, because whatever they're doing, football or non-football related, is really the key there. Key
Most
drive.
definitely. Most definitely. And I commend coaches that can
Yeah.
have of still having the edge to win, but also knowing taking the extra step to making sure that these athletes know that they care for their soul and their livelihood. Because man, they're risking their life every time they play. So it's good to know that mentally, emotionally,
Yeah.
spiritually, I'm cared for, and that I'm in the right place to where if things do go sideways while I'm playing this game, I know eternally that I'll be straight. You know what I'm saying? I got my family, I got people that's gonna support me,
Yeah.
and my family after. You know what I'm saying? So it's something that you don't think about when you're younger, but
Yeah.
I've had two concussions. I had two concussions at Northern Colorado, bro. So I
Um,
definitely think
yeah.
critically and beyond myself of you know
Yeah.
what am I
That's
doing?
something, like you said, like young people, you're in the heat of the moment. You want to play hard. You want to do all that. And I see a lot of young people that think that they can play forever. And I'm like, at some point, you got to hang up the cleats, right? Whether it's after high school, whether it's after college, whatever it may be, right? And I always ask people this, like, what does life look like after? What are you trying to do after, right? What is your
Most definitely.
repath? What are you doing after with it? And that's really, how another way that I try to help players, kids in that regard. And so, it's important, like you mentioned there, is to thinking about your future,
Yeah,
thinking about
yeah.
kind of what's coming forward. I know a lot of young people I've talked to that said, "Hey, I want my playing career to be over, and then I want to start a family." And I'm like, okay, but like if you play still however long you want to play, by that time, whatever it may be, like let's think about all that stuff
Mm.
beforehand, and things of that nature. So it's kind of um, great to kind of connect with players on that level. And like you said, having a coach that has an understanding and has a culture built like that is key. And so before we end the podcast here, I always give my guests a chance to number one, I ask them what's the best piece of advice you've received. So I'll throw that question your way. What's in Could be football related, could be non-football related, but what's the biggest piece, best piece you would say of advice that you've gotten throughout your career?
Money can be. I'll share this one because it's literally on my head right now. It's something I've had to ponder with.
Yeah.
Money, best servant, but the most terrible master.
Mm.
Um,
Can you expand a little bit on that? Kind of explain what you mean by that?
Man, money can definitely be so influential
Yeah.
and helpful in terms of taking care of the resources that you need,
Yeah.
not have to worry about things in terms of taking care of the necessities like body, family, um,
Mhm.
trips, whatever you want to do, man. It can be helpful in that regard, but when you make it, when it's what drives you, that's when it can not
Yeah.
be the that
Take
play
it.
your ego, feeding your pride and
Mhm.
things like that. So and I don't think that I have the answer to just that statement within itself. I'm still, as I get older, I'm definitely going to have more to be able to share. But
Yeah.
it's definitely that it's made me think, and I would say that's what I get from it as of now. But I also do want to say, man, for any athlete that's listening to this or any person, I definitely didn't do everything correctly in my collegiate athlete journey, man. It took the mess ups, it took the ignorance, it took the injuries, it took every bit of my journey to get to where I am today. And even where I am currently is not where I know that I'm going, but I'm thankful that um, I have the ability to breathe. I have the ability to be blessed with my wife, who I met in college as well, and then the daughter that we have, and meeting people like you, Yash, bro. Like, man, you made Northern Colorado experience so enjoyable, bro. Like every time I'm seeing you going to so many buildings upstairs, seeing your level of work ethic at the basketball arena, and then you getting your doctorate and stuff, and you helping out with football, bro. You was everywhere.
Yeah. Hey, I try, man. I try.
And
Yeah.
you never sad face
Yeah.
ever. Like you
Yeah.
was
I appreciate it. Yeah.
always approached it the right way. And so it was definitely something I was just like, man, this man working hard.
Yeah.
Ain't no way I can't come to
Yeah.
UNC, just do what I'm supposed to do, go to class and go
Yeah.
to practice, do what I'm supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? So y'all was working.
No, yeah, I'm always built like that, is in terms of, and I tell kids all the time, like, you just put your head down, you keep working hard, you get, mathematically you gonna get to where you want to get to, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a mathematical inevitability, right? You keep working hard, you keep showing up, you keep doing things you're supposed to do, you're gonna get to where, whatever goal, whatever thing you want to achieve, in that regard. And so it's great to see that. And it's great to see, you talk about, you haven't done everything right in that regard, but Cassidy, I would say it takes the mess ups. It takes
Mm-hmm.
some of the stuff that's happened, all right, to really shape person. If you do everything 100, you get everything right every time, right? You can't really learn from that. It takes those mess ups. So I think, like, it's brave of you to admit all that, but I think that's really what has shaped you, what's really going to drive you. But it's great to see kind of where you are in your journey in that regard. But want to kind of turn the spotlight on you, and I want you to kind of imagine, Kassidy, that you're talking to young athletes, to youth athletes, to athletes in middle school, elementary school, middle school, coming into high school. What's a piece of advice that you would provide them, if you were talking to them, if you were given a microphone to talk to them? What's something that you would emphasize?
I'll give you 7 words that my parents instilled in me at a young age. Participate in everything that you feel led to be in, that your parents put you in. Participate to the best of your ability, man. Just go out and just do it. Like, even though you hate it, just go out and just do it, man. Enjoy the people around you, get to know them.
Yeah.
The communication, communicate effectively. I'm still learning that as a father and a husband, but when you're a kid, definitely communicate with your parents. Let them know what you're doing, good and bad. It'll
Yeah.
save your life if you just come clean. You
Yeah.
save a lot of trouble. Communication, and then evaluation. Always self-reflect.
Mhm.
Don't have to be deep self-reflection, but just self-reflect with yourself. Like, how am I feeling? How's
Yeah.
my day? And how did I feel running this route? How did I feel being in class today? What am I feeling? Sometimes it's good to just be still, listen to your heartbeat, listen to yourself breathe, because it makes you grateful for a lot of things. Evaluation. The next word is determination.
Yeah.
Um, my parents definitely still to me, be determined, have that have that level of want to in you when you're doing something, or just every day in life, whether you walking, like
Yeah.
walk supposed to be where you're supposed to be at. You know what I'm saying?
Walk
uh,
with a sense of purpose. So that's, yeah.
and
I,
then I'm not just talking about school education, but be educated in this life, man. Learn to talk to people. Like, Yash, man, you've educated me on so many things just from our friendship and getting to know you, bro. Even with this space and podcast, man, like you're very insightful, and you giving insights to so many generations of athletes beyond just themselves. So it's
yeah.
great. That was education, and then attitude. Um,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna say we human. We're not gonna have the best attitude all the time, but in terms of just having that level of unconditional love towards another person,
Yeah.
always have be respectful towards anybody. and everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's just I mean, Southern hospitality, that's how I was
Yeah.
raised.
Yeah. Same way.
Just be
Um,
just be a person that shows love, bro. And obviously, have those human times where you can't emote, let yourself allow you to feel your emotions and all the different attitudes that comes with being a human. Allow yourself to feel that because it's definitely going to give you insight of the root of why you're feeling what you're feeling.
yeah.
And you don't know what this day is going to bring, man. We don't know. So it's
Yeah.
good. And it's good to also have that love too as well.
Yeah.
And then
Enjoy life.
last, oh, my bad, bro.
Oh,
What
I
did you?
said enjoy life too, right?
Yeah, life, man.
Enjoy life.
The fullest. Enjoy
Yeah.
to and then the last one that's big for me was definitely Jesus Christ, my faith. I'm definitely growing in my relationship with him
Yeah.
for sure. Man, I didn't realize just the foundation that my parents set me on, how much I would need it growing up. Because there's things that's gonna test you for where
Mhm.
your desires are. It's gonna pull you in all different directions. So I'm thankful that I had the prayers of my grandmother, my great grandmother, my grandfather, my great grandfather, my mom, my dad, my brothers, my sisters. Man, I'm thankful for their prayers that have kept me, um, and just the relationship that I have with God, from Him giving me grace and mercy to be able to do the things and be the person that I am today to keep living. So
Yeah.
those are 7 things that I would say to somebody that's listening to this, man. But yeah, man, I appreciate you so much, Josh. I gotta go.
Oh, no worries, man. Hey, I appreciate you, right, coming on and providing insight.
Yeah.
And again, talking about your process, your NIL process, your takeaways, the lessons you learn, because again, it's all about, the lessons that we can take away, things that
Yeah.
we can take away that we can teach young people
Mhm.
to not make that same mistake or not fall in that same trap, whatever it may be, whatever that we fell into. And I always tell kids, like, this is my journey, this is my thing.
Yep.
This is the traps, this is the issues that I had coming up, and these are the issues that I still have sometimes when I'm dealing with. But here's how you can circumvent that, or whatever it may be, to get around it. So it's great to hear your story. It's great to hear your experiences and the powerful insight that you've provided. But that's all the time we have for this episode of the Athlete Insights podcast. Kassidy, I'll have your social media on the video. I'll have your social media on Spotify in the description as well, so y'all can follow Kassidy and his journey moving forward. I know he has some big things coming up this year. 2025 is going to be a big year for you. I already know. So you can follow him on social media, on his Instagram and his Twitter, X, and his social media. And then you can follow my podcast on YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, pretty much anywhere you get
Mm-hmm.
podcasts, you can get this one. So again,
Appreciate
Cassidy, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was a pleasure to reconnect. Felt like we were at Northern Colorado again.
Facts.
The way we were reconnecting, but I appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you next time.